All right, let's talk about something that doesn't involve a giant inflatable rat this time. We're diving into history, specifically the history of Zionist militias in the lead up to the creation of Israel. Now, before you grab your pitchforks, I'm not here to pick sides or tell you who's right or wrong. What we are going to do is unpack some uncomfortable truths about the groups that laid the groundwork for one of the most contentious geopolitical situations in modern history. This isn't about pointing fingers, it's about understanding the complexities, the motivations, and yes, the violence that shaped this conflict from the very beginning. Buckle up, because this is going to get bumpy. So let's start with the Haganah, which, if we're being honest, sounds like a brand of Scandinavian yogurt, but trust me, it's far less pleasant. Formed in 1921, the Haganah initially presented itself as this benevolent neighborhood watch group protecting Jewish settlers in Palestine. Their motto was basically, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. But as tensions rose, so did the Haganah's willingness to throw a punch or, lob a grenade. And look, I get it, feeling unsafe in your own home is terrifying. But the Haganah's transition from self-defense to, shall we say, proactive security was a turning point. They went from guarding settlements to actively participating in the displacement of Palestinians. It's a bit like if your neighborhood watch started annexing lawns under the guise of preventative landscaping. And it didn't stop there. During the 1936 Arab revolt against British rule, the Haganah basically became Britain's muscle, helping them put down the Palestinian uprising. So much for being the underdog, eh? Now, if the Haganah was your neighborhood watch group gradually morphing into a paramilitary force, the Irgun was the unhinged neighbor who always had fireworks, even when fireworks were strictly prohibited. Splitting from the Haganah in 1931, the Irgun was like their angsty teenage cousin who just discovered punk rock and Molotov cocktails, led by Menachem Begin, who, fun fact, later became Prime Minister of Israel. The Irgun took a no more Mr. Nice Guy approach to the whole conflict. They were basically the embodiment of an eye for an eye, except their version usually involved blowing up a lot more than just an eye, with covert support from Poland, because why not throw another country into this chaotic mix? The Irgun unleashed a wave of violence against Palestinians. We're talking bombings, shootings, the whole shebang. They even bombed the King David Hotel in 1946, which, to be fair, was being used as a British administrative headquarters, but still, blowing up a hotel is generally frowned upon in most circles. By World War II, the Irgun had racked up a rap sheet longer than your arm, with over 60 attacks on Palestinians, cementing their reputation as a ruthless and brutal force. Chapter 3. Palmach, the tip of the spear. And finally we come to the Palmach, the elite strike force of the Haganah. Think of them as the special forces, but instead of fighting terrorists in remote caves, they were displacing Palestinians and securing land for Jewish settlements. Founded in 1936, the Palmach was like the Haganah's overachieving younger sibling, always eager to prove themselves in the most violent way possible. They were the ones on the front lines, carrying out some of the most brutal attacks against Palestinian villages. The massacres at Sasa and Al-Shia. Yeah, that was the Palmach. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, this is heavy stuff. Are you sure this isn't a bit much for a YouTube video? And to that, I say, yes, it's heavy, but that's the point. We can't just gloss over these uncomfortable truths. The Palmach, along with the Haganah and the Irgun, played a significant role in shaping the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as we know it. Their actions, often characterized by violence and displacement, laid the groundwork for the ongoing struggle over land, identity, and justice that continues to this day. Look, I'm not here to tell you who's right or wrong in this whole mess. History is messy, and this conflict in particular is a tangled web of grievances, ideologies, and violence. But what I hope you take away from this is an understanding that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict isn't some ancient feud that magically appeared one day. It's the result of very real, very human actions, some of which were, to put it mildly, quite shitty. And while we can't change the past, we can learn from it. We can acknowledge the injustices that occurred and work towards a future where violence and displacement are not the answer. Because at the end of the day, everyone deserves to feel safe and secure in their own homes, regardless of their faith, ethnicity, or yogurt preference.